When most people think about the book of Revelation, they think about beasts, dragons, seals, trumpets, and the end of the world. But before any of those famous visions appear, something unexpected happens. The book opens with 7 letters, 7 messages sent to 7 churches. At first glance, they seem simple. Jesus speaks to 7 Christian communities in Asia Minor and addresses their strengths and weaknesses. But here's the question. Why these 7 churches? Why not 10? Why not 12? Why not every church that existed at the time? And why does Revelation spend so much time on them before moving into its dramatic visions? Most people read these letters as 7 separate messages. But what if they're actually one message? What if there's a pattern connecting all 7 churches together? And once you see that pattern, the opening chapters of Revelation suddenly become much more than church evaluations. They become a roadmap for understanding the entire book, and maybe even understanding the challenges believers face today. To understand what's happening, we need to travel back to the end of the first century. The Roman Empire dominated the known world. Its power seemed unstoppable. Its influence reached nearly every aspect of life. The churches addressed in Revelation were located in what is now modern-day Turkey. These weren't imaginary places. They were real cities with real people facing real pressures. Many Christians lived in a culture that expected loyalty to Rome above everything else. Emperor worship was spreading, economic pressure was growing, social pressure was constant. Following Jesus wasn't simply a personal belief. It often carried consequences. And that's where the story begins. The author of Revelation, traditionally understood to be the Apostle John, receives a vision while exiled on the island of Patmos. The risen Jesus appears and instructs him to write messages to 7 churches. The churches are Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. 7 churches, 7 messages. But here's where things get interesting. In the Bible, numbers often carry symbolic significance, and no number appears more frequently in Revelation than 7. 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls. Again and again, the number appears. Throughout Scripture, 7 often represents completeness, wholeness, something brought to its full expression. If that's true, then the 7 churches may represent more than 7 local congregations. They may represent the complete picture of the church's spiritual condition, and suddenly the letters start looking very different. Let's look closer. The first church is Ephesus. This church is praised for its hard work, its endurance, its commitment to truth. It rejects false teaching. On paper, everything looks impressive, but Jesus identifies a problem. They have abandoned their first love. Think about that. They are doctrinally correct, morally disciplined, spiritually active, yet something essential is missing. Their relationship has become mechanical. The first church reveals the first danger, being right without remaining deeply connected to God. But that's only the beginning. Next comes Smyrna. Unlike most of the other churches, Smyrna receives no correction. Instead, it faces suffering, poverty, persecution, pressure, and yet Jesus praises its faithfulness. The pattern begins to emerge. Some churches struggle with comfort, others struggle with hardship, but both situations test faith. Then comes Pergamum, a church living in a city filled with pagan influence. Jesus commends their loyalty, yet warns that compromise has begun to enter the community. Truth and error are starting to mix, and that's a danger that appears throughout Scripture. Not open rebellion, compromise, because compromise often arrives quietly, one small step at a time. Then comes Thyatira, a church known for love, service, and perseverance. Those sound like strengths, and they are. But tolerance of false teaching has become a serious issue. Once again, the problem isn't the absence of good things, It's allowing harmful influences to remain unchecked. Notice the pattern. Each church possesses strengths. Each church faces dangers. Faithfulness isn't one-dimensional, it's a balance. And that's a theme Revelation returns to again and again. But we're only halfway through. The fifth church is Sardis. And this message contains one of the most startling statements in the entire book. Jesus says, "You have a reputation of being alive, but you are dead." That's shocking. From the outside, Sardis appears successful, healthy, active, respected. But appearances can be deceiving, and that's the warning. External success doesn't always reflect internal reality. The church looks alive, but